Hey everyone, just a quick note. This is Doug for the Checking the Gate podcast, and thank you so much if you've been listening so far. I just want to say this is the last episode, I totally promise, that has the bad sound quality. After this, I figured out what it is that happened, or at least I figured out how to fix it, and it'll be good quality from this point on. So thank you so much for your loyal listening, and I hope you enjoy our episode on Spider-Man 2. Hey everyone, welcome to Check the Gate podcast. I'm Doug,
and I'm Mason.
And I finally settled on a title.
It's
magic. It's It's pretty much magic. I mean, everything's a little out of order because I recorded four. This is gonna be the fourth episode I've recorded.
Oh.
And they're all they're all recorded in an order that they won't be released. So it's a little confusing for everybody.
We'll just release them in order they're supposed to be released, and we can edit the parts out where we talk about it not being in order, and then it'll just be what it is. No one will know the difference.
And by we edited it, you mean I'm going to edit it.
Yes.
And then you're going to plug it and not even listen to it.
Well, I don't like hearing my voice third person, which is actually a common thing.
It is. It's something that you kind of have to overcome, because I never used to like my voice, and then But the thing is, because I act so much, you just kind of have to get used to it. You just have to recognize that you're not going to sound the way you think you sound.
Yeah.
I still kind of hate the sound of my own voice. Like, I think I sound nasally and annoying.
Well,
but,
the reason
is because I'm nasally and annoying.
The reason that people sound different to themselves than they do to others is because your voice resonates differently in your own head than it does when it leaves your head.
Yeah.
So, like, you're the first person to hear your own sound waves, and others aren't.
It makes sense, yeah. But anyway, look at that. We're already off topic. We're less than 2 minutes in. What is the topic?
The topic is the importance of being Spider-Man.
Right, yes. Actually, before we get into this, because I just realized that I haven't, really introduced you properly.
Oh, okay.
And so, I mean, by this point, I've already explained who I am and my connection to cinema, and why I think people should care about what I have to say, even though, you don't have to care about what I have to say.
People care?
Mason, let's talk about you,
okay.
And what it is that, like your connection to cinema, I guess, through the years, and why people should take into consideration what it is that you have to say about movies.
Okay. We've had this conversation, and the reason that you've asked me here is because I can be an opinionated prick.
Well, I wasn't...
We both know it's true.
That's not how I worded it.
No.
But, okay.
I am very, very opinionated. I've been writing on my own for quite some time.
Well, you've been working on the same script for, over a decade now.
12 years.
12 bloody years. Literally longer than I've known you.
Yes. Yeah. Well, 2 years longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still, it's still longer.
Yeah. It's crazy, but regardless of that, I have taken it upon myself to learn my craft as well as humanly possible. I analyze film and media from a written standpoint and appreciate cinema and really all forms of media that starts out as a written script for the literature that it is. I've learned about... why can I never remember people's name? The guy who said the medium is the message. He was Canadian, too. McCollum? Something like that. I'm going to look this up on my phone.
Okay, well, I'm gonna say that Mason here is a movie junkie as well.
Yeah.
If anyone... I see a lot of movies. People are like, oh, have you seen this movie? And most of the time, my answer is yes, I have. But there's still times where I'm like, hey, you want to see this film? And you're like, I already saw it.
I'm like, oh, okay, well then, I feel like I'll watch it again. Just because, like, you're so into film.
I am.
And you know, and you know, the thing is, like, I think that that's a good starting point for anybody who wants to, like, who has any interest in making movies as well. I mean, even when I was in film school,
Mhm.
there were people there who just seemed to hate every movie, and it's like, guys, why are you here? Like, they you know, of course they had they're like, well, we love the Coen brothers, we love like we love Stanley Kubrick, and of course, like, because every
Pretentious film snobs.
I mean, the thing is, like, I like Stanley Kubrick movies, I like Coen brothers movies as well,
Mhm.
but it's like, I don't like the pretentiousness
Yeah.
of it, and you know, like, the elitism. The elitism is sort of like, come on, man, like, you can love a blockbuster, it won't kill you.
Coincidentally, Kubrick's version of The Shining is the version that Stephen King hates.
That's true, actually, yeah. But we can talk about The Shining another day. Did you
Yeah.
figure out who that guy was?
Marshall McLuhan.
Marshall McLuhan. Okay.
The medium is the message, and that's the phrase coined by Marshall McLuhan, and it's very, very true. When I look at a piece of media, whether it's film or television show or comic book or whatever, I appreciate it for the message in the medium and the message in the message, right?
All right. Yeah.
And yeah, I try to analyze film from the written perspective and also from the story perspective, because
story is probably the quintessential element.
Yes, it's also
filmmaking.
It's also the easiest and also the most elusive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen professional movies, like high budget films that don't have a good grasp of story.
Michael Bay.
I mean, not even just Michael Bay. Like, I mean, yeah, the obviously, like, the thing is with those Transformers movies is that they are the fallback that everyone mentions when they think about, like, crappy blockbusters.
Well, no, there's also The Island, Armageddon, and The Rock.
Well, okay. Actually, you know what? I like The Island.
Oh God.
And I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen The Rock, but I remember liking that too. But you know, again, we can debate those another day.
The Island is a dime store Logan's Run.
It's definitely, there's a lot of concepts borrowed. But anyway, never mind. Anyways, we'll talk about The Island another day.
I'm going to have to watch a Michael Bay movie. Oh God, kill me now.
Okay, you know what you signed up for.
Okay.
I wanted to have Mason as one of the head co-hosts on the show because him and I do have differing opinions, such as The Island. I'm not saying it's perfect. So I think that that one of the things that will make the show interesting is having the sort of like the conflicting points of view on certain films, because you know it's no fun watching people agree all the time. That's why Siskel and Ebert, they lasted as long as they did, because they had very different opinions.
Yeah.
Sometimes they matched up, sometimes they didn't, and sometimes they both hated something, sometimes they loved something. Sometimes they had polar opposite opinions.
Yeah.
And that's interesting because I think, I mean, who wants to sit here and listen to somebody like two people lambast the same film for like an hour?
Yeah.
You know, it's much more interesting to hear different sides of the story. Oh.
So the importance of being Spider-Man.
Yes.
AKA Spider-Man 2.
And yeah, Spider-Man 2, this is our follow-up episode to the first Spider-Man. Another quick disclaimer is that right now our sound quality is not ideal, and I don't know why. I think I'm having trouble with the microphone. I've gotten to a place where I'm comfortable with it, but I want to improve the audio quality of the show as we go, as I figure out what the technical issues are. So bear with us for a little while. It is listenable. I hope the content will keep you interested. And thanks for tuning in.
Yay, content!
Yeah, yay. Okay, so Sam Raimi. This is not The Amazing Spider-Man 2. This is just Spider-Man 2, starring Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst, James Franco, Alfred Molina, and
Rosemary Harris.
And let's not forget
J.K. Simmons.
The great Bruce Campbell.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
God, yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's see. Well, I guess what's the main story is basically that Peter Parker
is pitiful. He couldn't have been any shyer.
We've covered this already.
Right.
He is still trying to balance his personal life with being Spider-Man. He's fired from his job. He's always late for school. His grades are slipping. but he just can't stop being Spider-Man because.
With great power comes great responsibility, as we hear 20,000 times.
Well, actually, they tried their best to reword it as much as possible in this, but basically, yeah, he's still haunted by his Uncle Ben's death and feels the need to do good because he has these amazing abilities.
Can we just take a moment and feel really sorry for the character Peter Parker, because every single writer who takes on the character feels the need to make him suffer as much as humanly possible.
That's true.
A good maybe hour and a half of the movie is just like, okay, he's down, let's kick him.
Let's just kick him and defecate on his corpse. Peter Parker, one of the things is his grades are hinging on, as from a course he's taking with Dr. Kirk Connors, is a paper he's writing on Dr. Otto Octavius, who is a renowned scientist working on a fusion thing. A shiny ball. A fusion shiny ball.
Yeah. And, this is where the film, I think, takes its first misstep, because the writer does not understand fusion or science or even really physics.
But, on the other hand, what he does understand is shiny cinema.
Yeah.
And big shiny balls.
Yeah.
So Peter gets a chance to meet Otto because his buddy Harry Osborn is now in charge of Oscorp, and Oscorp is funding Otto Octavius' big shiny balls.
And, the technical term we call it in writing, because reasons.
Exactly. So, Octavius and Parker get along splendidly.
Yeah.
They're starting up the experiment.
Mm-hmm.
Otto shows off his new mechanical arms, and he's like, "These are gonna do what my regular arms can't in this experiment." So,
yep.
However, there's an accident.
Mm-hmm.
Otto's wife, rest in peace,
tragically
dies.
Yeah.
And in the accident, Spider-Man disconnects it just in time, but he gets electrocuted, and the arms are fused to his back, and he becomes the villain known as Dr. Octopus.
Or Doc Ock.
One of the most famous Spider-Man villains in the history of Spider-Man's continuity.
Also one of the first.
Yeah, he was within the first 10 issues, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean I think that's pretty good coverage of the basic story. I mean, this love stuff that goes awry. Him and Mary Jane, they can't be together. Boo-hoo-hoo-hoo.
Because reasons.
Because Spider-Man, because Peter feels that as long as he's Spider-Man, he can't have a romantic life because he watched the first movie.
Yeah.
And he's like, God damn it! Look at she just keeps getting captured.
Yeah.
Man, this is a bad idea.
Very, very bad.
Yeah.
But instead of not being Spider-Man and taking agency over his own life, he doesn't.
Well, I mean, the thing is that he feels the need to commit to being Spider-Man because of Uncle Ben's death
and God hates him.
And yes, exactly.
Yeah. First of all, one of the things that makes Dr. Octopus so awesome in the comic books is that oftentimes his arms will be fighting battles, and he will be doing something completely different, check an email or whatever, and his arms are giving Spider-Man hell, basically. I think that's something that was missing here. Doc Ock, has always been really good at dividing his attention and, kind of trying to disregard Spider-Man as an actual threat.
Well, I don't think that. I mean, I've read quite a few Spider-Man comics. I never really got that impression that. I think that. I mean, I like the idea of him sort of being able to work on one thing and keep Spider-Man busy with his arms, but I don't feel like that was something that was crucially missing, and also not something that was a defining characteristic of the character. I actually thought that. Well, let's talk about Dr. Octopus.
Mm-hmm.
I actually thought that this portrayal of him was really awesome. I become a big Alfred Molina fan as a result. I wish I saw him in more things because I mean, every time I see him, I'm pretty into it.
Frida is so good.
Frida and Silk, he was really good in Silk, although the movie wasn't amazing, but he was really good. Yeah, I think his portrayal is great. I know he's in this one he doesn't have that sort of weird European accent. For what the story is, it fits well, and I fully accepted it. And I thought that visually he was cool. The arms, the way they looked, were a great improvement over the comics. If I had one complaint about their portrayal of Dr. Octopus, it's the sort of AI in the arms. I didn't like that it was sort of like they were almost squeaking like a monster and
Yeah.
trying to control his mind. I
Yeah.
feel like it would have been just as simple to have it so that Otto Octavius, he sees his wife die, his life work be disconnected by Spider-Man and basically go up in flames, and like it drives him mad. Like I think that was always what it was.
Yeah,
And
but
well, I mean, they actually the wife thing was an add-on.
well, yeah.
And it kind of I thought it worked.
In the comics, he eventually ends up dating Aunt May.
That's where there was a story. He almost married her, I think.
It almost did, yeah.
But yeah, that didn't work out so well. That didn't work. That didn't pan out in the movie at all. So
Thank heavens, because
it
was already pretty clustered.
So yeah, I mean, but that's I don't know. Like, it would have taken just a couple tiny rewrites or edits to kind of fix my complaints about Doctor Octopus. I think I would have liked it if it was just kind of him going crazy and losing his mind and like obsessing over
His work.
And no matter like what the cost was, I think
Yeah.
that would have been just fine.
So, speaking of his work, one of the main MacGuffins in the plot. Should we explain MacGuffin?
Sure.
Okay. A MacGuffin is coined by Alfred Hitchcock, and basically it means any thing or person or thing that drives the plot forward that the characters are searching for.
Okay.
Okay, so the main MacGuffin for Octavius is something called tritium, which actually exists in the world. It is a rare element. However, it's the byproduct of nuclear fission rather than the cause of
Okay, so again, another case of the writers not knowing anything about
science. Or fusion or physics.
But, as I think that, I mean, to me personally, that's a kind of thing. Sorry, so go on. What's your point of view?
Oh, I just like to point out whenever media gets things like that inaccurate, because, knowledge is important and science is important, and we should...
Well, fair enough.
Yeah.
I feel like it depends on the kind of movie. I feel like if you're creating sort of a high concept science fiction, you should have some grounding in the science behind it. But I feel like in a film like Spider-Man, which, I mean, this one is still kind of a little campy. Not as campy as the first one, and lighthearted, and I don't know. I feel more willing to accept it in like Spider-Man 2 than I would say Children of Men or Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Just due to if anything, just due to the tone. Like it's obviously like you're not supposed to watch that and believe anything.
Mm-hmm.
It is a light viewing.
But even still, I think it's important to note, inaccuracies.
All right. Well, fair enough. All right, guys. Here's the truth of the matter. Spider-Man 2 is not scientifically accurate. We're gonna bury the hatchet on this one. We're drawing the line. We're gonna say, hey, Spider-Man 2 has been a lie this whole time.
Just like the cake.
Just like
the cake is a lie. From Portal, the game.
So, I guess let's talk a little bit more about the characters. How do you feel, or unless you want to talk more about Doc Ock?
No.
Yeah, okay, so Peter Parker and Mary Jane and Harry Osborn, the trio. These are the three focal points of this trilogy. I feel like actually, personally, I felt like the actors did a better job in general. James Franco was about on par, I'd say. I think that Tobey Maguire, I think he did really well with this one, much better than I felt in the first one. Same with Kirsten Dunst, and thank God, they got her hair color right. Her hair color in the first movie drove me nuts. It was the most. I mean, it looked like a dye job, and I guess it was supposed to be a dye job. Well, whatever the case is, she actually looks like a redhead in this one, and like a real person. So I appreciate that.
Gingers are people?
Gingers are people.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I like gingers. Gingers are awesome. I know gingers. They're my friends.
It sounds like it's like I have black friends. Yeah, I know I hang out with them. I'm on good terms. A few black people, so it's okay if I sing along to rap music. That's just what it sounded like.
Well, I'm sorry if it sounds like that.
You don't need to backtrack for me. Don't you worry.
Okay.
I know, and I'm sure people can extrapolate.
Yeah.
That you're LOLing and JKing.
Yes. I've always really liked James Franco in movies and things.
Mhm.
I most recently saw him in The Normal Heart, which is an adaptation of a Broadway play. The movie also has Jim Parsons from The Big Bang Theory. And if you ever want to see James Franco and Mark Ruffalo make out, that's the movie to see.
Thanks for the heads up. Is it a good movie?
It is a very, very good movie.
Okay,
It's
cool.
about the rise of the AIDS epidemic in New York City
Oh.
and the formation of a organization to help men deal with AIDS.
So it's a little bit Philadelphia-ish.
Yeah, except no lawyers.
But yeah, you know what? Actually, one of the best moments I think in this film is okay. We're gonna get into some spoiler stuff, but that's why we talk about movies that are already out on
Yeah.
DVD, so that we can talk
If
a
you
little bit about
haven't seen
spoilers.
it already, then
Yeah, like come on, man, what are you waiting for? This is one of the top grossing movies of all time. Why haven't you watched? Why didn't you chip in? And near the end, Harry finds out who Spider-Man is, and his moment when he sees Peter in Spider-Man's costume, that's actually a really good like moment of acting. Like really, a lot of truth in that. I felt that he really hit that one over the head. I mean, the whole movie, Harry's just a tortured soul. Like he's mourning his father's death. He's obsessing over Spider-Man. Just going like he actually looks like he's losing his sanity. I mean, kudos to James Franco for looking like a complete basket case. I mean, I think I said this in our last podcast. I kind of question James Franco's sanity at the best of times. But still, he can also bring something more down to earth when he wants to on screen. And in this case, he looked like he was just sweating tears of vengeance. Any other like character highlights? I mean, J.K. Simmons. I don't know I can't remember if we mentioned this last episode. But J.K. Simmons is just, I love this guy as John Jameson.
He embodies the character so perfectly.
And the thing is, like Jameson's like a cartoon character.
Oh yeah.
And you can tell J.K. Simmons like knows that and is playing him like a cartoon character. Robbie Robertson. I like this more subtle dynamic of Robbie kind of like trying to be on. This is something that I feel like is missing from the newer Spider-Man films. Is that there's no Daily Bugle. It's mentioned. You see Peter. You see that Peter works for Jameson, but you don't
But
get any
then
of that
again, if you
dynamic.
blink, you miss it.
Yeah, exactly. So I really like that this particular trilogy explores the Spider-Man world a lot more. The newer series explores like Peter Parker's life more, which is also good. But this one it explores a lot of the different people in Peter Parker's life, which is what the comics do.
Yeah, but like for film, I think that's where this series fails, because you need to be as concise as possible within the bounds of one script. And by expanding the world so much and having all these characters that you can't really fully develop or get into, it kind of hurts it a lot.
I think they juggle it well. I think that, I mean, there's some characters that don't get fleshed out at all, like Betty Brant and
Kurt Connors.
Yeah, it's true. Kurt Connors. I mean, I think that they were trying to lead up to something that just didn't wind up panning out.
Well,
because I think the Amazing Spider-Man was supposed to originally be Spider-Man 4.
Yeah, but that didn't happen.
But the script had to be reworked.
Yeah,
like heavily.
But even still, the way they treated Kurt Connors in this one, it was done very well. However, it was kind of also a throwaway character. Nothing was really done with him to justify using him as any kind of villain later on. And
well, I mean, to be fair, like just this is something that I wish they did more of with. I mean, just to have the character there. That way, he's a face to recognize later on as you develop him more. This is something I wish they did with Eddie Brock. Personally, I would have loved. There's a mention of an Eddie. It's implied in the first film. But I would have loved to see Eddie and like sort of see a start of a rivalry between him and Peter through the first two movies, and then maybe like the Venom story that would come later wouldn't be as disappointing or as rushed.
Don't try to hypothetically defend Spider-Man 3.
Well, I can. We'll talk about Spider-Man 3 later. But I'm just. This is what I'm saying is that like there's these characters that play a small part in these films that could potentially turn into so much more. And I think Dr. Connors is in. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen Spider-Man 3, but I think he's in that one.
Well,
and again, I don't mind that they're just kind of dropping in a few characters, and they're not fully developed.
But then again, they don't really serve a purpose. Like, if you cut out a lot of these scenes, like, the film can still make sense, right?
Okay, well, here's my counter. To establish Peter Parker's stakes in where he's at as Spider-Man and how it's affecting his personal life, one of those main stakes was that he was failing in his classes. His grades were going down. So you had to find out that his grades were going down. And in this case, it was by him talking to a professor. In that case, there needs to be a professor there. Why not make it Dr. Kirk Connors?
Because Kirk Connors is the Lizard, and when you have somebody say, I'm Dr. Connors, or something like that, every single fanboy in the audience goes, oh!
Yes, this is true. And again, had the series stayed on track, that moment would have turned into a promise that is actually fulfilled. Unfortunately, it didn't wind up being fulfilled.
Okay, so for Spider-Man villains, after number 2, it was reported it could be the Lizard, the Vulture, Kraven the Hunter, Venom, Sandman, and those are all the ones that I can remember offhand.
Yeah.
There were a lot of potential villains written into a lot of different scripts that were just thrown out.
Yeah.
So, like, there was a lot of promises made.
There were.
And they lied to us.
No, they didn't lie to us.
They lied to us.
No, hear me out. No, don't you remember what happened? Here's what happened. They were making Spider-Man 4 with a functioning script. And then the studio was toying around with it, and to the point that it was frustrating Sam Raimi, and he walked off. And when he walked off, Tobey Maguire walked off, and everyone walked off of Spider-Man 4 as it was being made, pretty early on. That script that they were working on was redone to serve the purpose of becoming the Amazing Spider-Man, to become a reboot. That implies to me that Spider-Man 4 was going to have the Lizard. And so therefore, Doc Connors, who was introduced in Spider-Man 2, I believe he was in Spider-Man 3, was being built up to become the Lizard. Unfortunately, we didn't get that movie. We got a different movie.
Well, yeah, but he wasn't even being built up because we didn't see him obsessing over his lost arm, working on his genetics research, working with lizards. There was no mention of any part of his character development. He is a tool for the plot.
Still, Peter Parker would have had to have a professor come up to him and say, like, hey man, your grades are slipping, why aren't you coming into class on time?
Yeah, but that could have been Professor O'Malley.
But then everyone in the audience is like, who the hell is Professor O'Malley?
And then it's like, we don't want to lie to you, so we're using the Irish professor, okay? But
okay, and I think this is another case where we're going to have to agree to disagree, because I think that they made a good choice. You think that they made a bad choice.
I think that they lied to us.
It wasn't a lie.
It was a lie.
It was a promise that was intended to be kept, and then, due to circumstances, was not kept.
And if it was intended
to be kept, there was a disturbance. As Spider-Man would say, there was a disturbance.
It's a disturbance with you. You're fired. No. If it was a promise intended to be kept, we would have seen something related to the character's struggle or cares or desires, and that was not ever in any of the scripts.
Well, okay, first of all, you don't know if it was in any of the scripts.
It wasn't in any of the films.
It wasn't in the final films.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I'll give you that.
Yes.
There was no mention. There was no Dr. Connors cradling his stub, going, "Oh, if only I had my arm back."
Or working with lizards, or involved in genetics that we've heard about. This is quintessential Doc Connors.
Okay. Shh. I understand where you're coming from.
Yes.
Do you understand where I'm coming from?
Yes. And Betty Brant was also a love interest.
I do know Betty Brant was I think it was Peter Parker's first girlfriend.
Gwen Stacy?
No, I thought she was before Gwen.
Oh.
But I might be wrong.
Yeah.
So don't hold that to me.
Yeah.
But yes, Peter Parker and Betty Brant did date in the comics. Betty Brant is
receptionist at the Daily Bugle.
Way too underdeveloped for that to happen in the
Yep.
movies. So,
which again, fan service, not actual development for the plot.
Well, you know what? Actually, let's be fair. She does still have the job that she had in the comics.
Yes.
She's still the receptionist of the Daily Bugle and assistant.
Yes, but it serves the same amount for the plot as Gambit in X-Men Origins Wolverine.
No, this didn't feel forcefully inserted. This just felt like they were just modeling the character after Betty Brant, and I think it was fine. I think it was like she was underdeveloped. I'll give you that. She didn't really serve a purpose, but she was there in the same capacity that she would be in the comics.
Okay.
So
I'll concede that.
Okay. Cool. What do you think is the deeper message of the film?
This movie, the final product, really does framing really well in terms of the plot. It has what I like to call bookends. So things that are established and set up at the beginning are followed through with at the very end, and you see a lot of duality in terms of theme and plot and stuff like that. Mary Jane is pursuing her dream of being an actress and is starring in The Importance of Being Earnest, which, if you don't know, is all about people trying to be other people to get out of responsibilities and stuff that they don't want to do in their life and whatnot.
It is a particularly clever detail that I appreciate.
Yeah. And when you have a superhero story, a message like that really definitely resonates because then, if you do it right, you can get into a deeper conversation about what it means to have a secret identity and also to be a hero and all that fun stuff. So they theme the whole thing really well by coyly inserting the importance of being earnest. And later on, when his powers start to go wonky and he needs to reevaluate his life and what he wants as a person, it's kind of really great. And then
I actually forgot that there was a whole subplot about him losing his powers until I was watching it. He's losing his powers.
Yeah.
That's weird. But it's been that long since I've seen the movie.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so when they start to touch on Spider-Man No More, which was a famous or a very well-known story arc in the Spider-Man comics.
Yeah, it happened a few times. Really. It's I don't want to be Spider-Man. It hurts too much. I can't do it. And then he has a dream, and Uncle Ben's like, you gotta. Yeah. And he's like, all right, I'll do it.
Or when Stacy dies or something happens, and it's I'm responsible for this. So yeah, they frame it really well, and then to have Peter Parker in the audience of the play that they're using to frame the plot in, at the same point as his powers are failing and he's reevaluating everything is kind of what I like to think of as a writer giving a nice little wink and a nod.
Duality and people not being true to themselves is what you think. Okay, yeah, I got you. I also think that there's an element of having to make sacrifices to do the right thing, which unfortunately is the story of Peter Parker's life.
Yeah.
But also finding balance between making sacrifices and being true to yourself. Because ultimately, almost one of Peter Parker's defining features, according to this whole thing, his whole life he's loved Mary Jane, and to the point where it's an intrinsic part of who he is. And due to that, you kind of see where he's at mentally with her and where his self-esteem is at. Whenever there's something really negative with her, it affects him in such a way that it literally affects him physically and he loses powers. I guess what I'm trying to say is anytime Mary Jane and him are having difficulties and he winds up seriously doubting who he is, he starts to lose his powers. So there's almost a correlation between him denying that crucial part of himself, of his love for Mary Jane, and who he is intrinsically as Spider-Man. So while he feels like he needs to sacrifice so much in his life in order to be happy, in actuality, it's more about finding the balance of who he is in loving Mary Jane and who he is as Spider-Man, he doesn't even actually make that choice. She wants to make the choice to balance it out. So I guess in a way, they do kind of balance each other out. She sort of makes him choose, hey, be with me and be Spider-Man, and that's okay. Be who you are. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, it's really interesting because he loses his great power, and the message is when you have a great power, you have a great responsibility. So when you lack the power, do you still have the responsibility?
And it turns out, that's one of the interesting things is that, again, sort of in the sense of denying who you truly are, even when he doesn't have his powers, he still truly has the desire to help and save people. And when he denied that, you could sort of see that there was it was weighing on him. And even when he did, there was a scene where he went into a burning building and saved a kid, even though he didn't have his power. Yeah, exactly. Even though this one, it wasn't a baby; it was a little girl. So he had to go and step up despite not being Spider-Man anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think yeah, there we go. That's essentially the thesis of what I'm trying to say in a really jumbled up way. Is that it's about choice and but more like being true to who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what is it that you really liked about the film?
Seeing him fall.
Suppose you're meaning literally, like him, fall off a building.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, like he metaphorically falls quite a lot, but
Yeah.
I mean, like he's swinging through the sky and then thud.
Yeah, there's literally a bunch of scenes where he falls and hits cars. He goes, oh, afterwards. Because
the Screen Junkies does a thing where they look at action heroes and whatnot who get hurt a lot, and then they have like a medical professional go, yeah, this is all the injuries a person would get from that, and that would kill a person. And
yep, there was they did the whole Die Hard series.
Yeah, they did.
And it turns out that John McClane would have actually survived Die Hard 2. But none of the other ones.
None of them.
Yeah, that's neither here nor there.
But yeah, the ridiculousness of the FaceTime for the hero.
Oh yeah, he wait, you mean like
he takes off his mask so much, it's ridiculous.
This isn't the stuff you like?
I like the absurdity of it.
Okay.
Because like on one hand, he's a superhero who's trying to protect his identity. On the other hand, apparently Tobey Maguire has some kind of ego complex and just wants the camera on his face all the time. So I don't know if that's not if Tobey Maguire is listening.
He's like, that bastard Mason.
Oh God, no.
How dare he?
If Tobey Maguire is listening, sorry, but like you're a superhero trying to conceal your identity. Taking off your mask is the first no-no. In fact, in the pages of Ultimate Spider-Man, Peter Parker frequently cried out in agony over how many people actually found out who he was.
This sounds to me more like a con rather than a pro. I was talking about the pros of the movie. And, I mean, the thing is, I kind of agree with you in that, like, it's... I kind of get the train thing, because his mask got all, like, was on fire, and he took it off, and then...
And then when he put it back on, it was okay. What?
It was a little... Well, no, it started off still looking kind of burnt. And then later on somehow it was okay. But he still, I kind of get that there was a lot of time pressure. He had to save people's lives, so that I get. It was when at the end when spoiler when he reveals himself to Doc Ock. I'm like, what are you doing? This guy's trying to kill you. Don't do it, man. Are you nuts? That's when I had the biggest issue with it.
Yeah. But like the thing that I kind of like about it is the absurdity of it. Like, it's so ridiculously insane. Like, if somebody was a masked vigilante with superpowers, they would not be doing this, because then, like, some shutterbug would get their picture, sell it to a newspaper, and then it's game over.
I'm still struggling to see your logic in calling it a pro, but
it's so absurd, it's hilarious.
All right, okay, so it's just on that level that it amuses you.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. I guess.
What else do I like?
Let's talk about more like things that you like in a non-ironic way.
Oh, okay. Aunt May is just adorable.
I think that actually, I agree with this point as well. Not being okay. Sorry. Finish your point actually before I jump in.
Yeah. Aunt May is adorable, and I kind of have this conspiracy theory that throughout the trilogy, she actually knows Peter is Spider-Man, Like she figures it out.
Well, I think in this one, I would say if not throughout the trilogy, but I'd say in this movie, it seems like she may have figured it out.
Yeah. Either that or the writers just like, we need somebody to say this, so
it'll be Aunt May.
Yeah.
But I feel like the Rosemary Harris. Is it
Rosemary Harris.
I feel like she was playing it like she knew.
Yeah.
So, it seemed, because she just seemed to have a coyness about a lot of the things she said.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm going to agree on the point of Aunt May. What I like about this is that her character changes. There's a few steps. So she's not just like Peter's aunt. She actually is a character who gets fleshed out and changes in that she starts off not liking Spider-Man, then she does like Spider-Man. This is one of the things that frustrated me in the comics a lot, is that no matter how many times Spider-Man saved her, she was always like, I hate that dreadful Spider-Man, until she literally found out that Peter Parker was Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Which was years later, years later, decades later. I think she died and came back from the grave before she liked Spider-Man. So I like that in this, Spider-Man saves her life,
Mm-hmm.
and she's like, I really feel like he is not who I thought.
Yeah.
It shows it shows her being less of like this, just a sort of symbol in Peter's life, and much more of her own character. And also like the progression of her and like still grieving over Uncle Ben, and Peter talking to her about his involvement in Uncle Ben's death.
Yeah.
I think that it shows a lot of progress on that front. I also, again, another thing I thought Dr. Octopus is great in the film. I again, except for the my little nitpicky details, I thought that he was one of the best choices for a supervillain, Spider-Man villain for the second movie.
Although I would have loved it if he worked with an accent coach and got like a really good Eastern European accent and could keep it consistent.
Well, I mean, frankly, giving him no accent is better than botching up an accent.
Yeah.
So I'll take it. I don't mind. What things you didn't like about the film?
Oh God.
I've really stressed you out with this.
Okay, so what don't I like about it?
Well, if you need time to think about it, I can say some of mine.
Sure.
I feel like the romance between Peter and Mary Jane is too redundant.
Oh God. Yeah.
It kind of goes through a lot of the same motions as it did in the first film.
And it seems to me kind of like it's there because they want it to be there.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like Tobey Maguire and Kristen Dunst in this movie, the whole thing seems very forced.
Not that I think their chemistry is all right together, but I think that it's just there's too much back and forth, too much indecisiveness, and it's just frustrating to watch. And I get why it's like it the way it is, but I still don't like it. It still just doesn't. It's never really sat well with me. But I like it. I like how it turns out in the end of this one. Well, apparently you don't. Well, I think that was good because she made a concrete decision. She wasn't at that point. She wasn't just the damsel in distress anymore. She was making a firm decision and wanting to have her part in Spider-Man's life.
Yeah, but come on, let's be honest. She's still the damsel in distress. She's there to be saved. Like, let's not kid each other here.
I mean, well, she was captured a whole lot less in this one than she was in the last one. I'll give her that. But at least this time it made more like logical sense too. Like, it wasn't just so many like random acts. It was like he was with her at the time when Doc Ock captured her.
Yeah.
But man, at that point she's gonna be thinking like, what is wrong with me? Like, how do I keep getting into these situations? I don't see any other girls in this whole city being captured by supervillains nearly as much as me. What is going on? So,
poor Mary Jane. Oh God.
So yeah, I feel like the romance between Spider-Man or Peter Parker and Mary Jane should have been done differently, because whatever it is they're doing in here just doesn't work for me. I mean, maybe it works for other people. Maybe other people have love lives that complicated. I'm trying so hard to keep my love life simple, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But I mean, hell, I'm way better off than Spider-Man. So yeah, I think that's my biggest beef. Actually, I think I think there's a lot of progress made in the movie with the characters, and I don't feel that the love story is making the same progress as everything else.
A lot of the things that I don't like about it are really, really, really nitpicky. New Yorkers rally behind New York cliche.
Well, again, I liked this one. Again, I didn't like it so much the first one. This one was kind of like you want to get to Spider-Man, you have to go through us. He's like, all right, and then he does.
Yeah.
So I appreciated that on that level. But it still was kind of like this. It was a little bit of like the same motions as the first movie.
Yeah. Also, every time in a movie or something you see a character who is depressed and obsessive, they're always an alcoholic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that I mean it's cliche because I think it's based off some truth.
But
I mean,
not really. Like, there's plenty of people who are obsessive and not total drunks.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm not an expert on the subject, so I can neither agree nor disagree. I have a complaint,
No?
and I feel like it's a big one.
Okay.
Okay. And again, spoiler, this is about the ending of the film. I don't like that they killed off Doc Ock.
I don't like that they kill off every bad guy in the series.
Yeah. Except for Sandman, who gets blown off in the wind. But, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, Green Goblin, I get. And that actually forwarded the plot of Harry's plot, and also because they killed off Green Goblin in the comics for a long time. But Doctor Octopus, I feel like they shouldn't have revealed himself to Doc Ock, and because once he did that, you know he's gonna die.
Yeah, it's how it's gone every other time.
And then like, why not? I mean, why not knock him off at the end? I know it's supposed to be some big sacrifice to like redeem the character, but it felt wrong, and it never.
Yeah, but
it didn't sit well with me.
Even still, like Spider-Man's whole thing is that he does not kill people.
I know Spider-Man wouldn't kill people. Doc Ock could be locked up in prison and going out of his mind and not know who Spider-Man is.
Yeah, or know who he is and like keep it a secret so he can escape one day or be released, then enact his revenge.
I'd still prefer if he didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
Like I mean, just because I just feel like it's not looking forward. If it's not forward thinking enough, that maybe like you're down the road you could have characters return.
Mm-hmm.
Once you kill them off. In movies, it's different than in comic books, where if you kill someone off in the comic book, they're going to be back. If you kill someone off in the movie, if you bring them back, people are like, what?
Yeah.
You can't do it. So I just was disappointed by that. That was one of my complaints.
Yeah. Speaking of the ending, this is heavy.
What?
At the very end, like, he's saving Mary Jane for the umpteenth time in the series, and he's, like, holding the wall that's collapsing.
Yeah.
And he's like looking down, and she's like, "Oh my god, this makes sense." And he's like, "This is heavy."
I found it kind of fun. I didn't mind that.
It's like, but even still, like, escape from that situation is so easy. Either you can break through the nearby window, or you can just literally crawl out, like just go forward a few steps, and then you can lose the wall. Like, it's so unnecessary. And just ridiculous. And even still, like, when you're saving somebody, why say something like, "This is heavy"? Like, of course, you're holding a wall.
That didn't even register as a complaint to me.
Okay.
I feel okay with that. But it didn't rub you the right way. It didn't rub you in that special way.
No,
Okay.
It does not rub me in any special way.
All right.
Although when things do, it's very pleasurable. So, what else didn't I like? Mary Jane was trying to justify leaving her husband. She was still engaged, still with somebody, meeting up with Peter Parker before she got captured, and like, let's do this. Come on, kiss me. And that's just kind of like,
you know what though? Okay, as hear me out.
Okay.
As somebody who understands the complexities of being in a relationship or like wanting somebody else and like that kind of thing, or like sort of being tied down almost due to like technicalities.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of get where she's coming from. She's really just trying to find. She loves Peter Parker,
Mm-hmm.
but she is committed to John Jameson, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jonah Jameson's son.
Yeah. She's committed to him because he's like the safe choice. Like, hey, things with Peter are not working out. I can always fall back to this safe person. And the thing is, it does lead her to making some immoral decisions.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, like that kind of makes her character more real, to me anyway. Like it shows like she's really struggling. It's not that she wants to like cheat on John, and it's not that she doesn't even love. She may very well love John, but she loves Peter more.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, like, she wants to move on with her life. She doesn't want to feel like she's tied to Peter her whole life.
Mm-hmm.
I personally understand the complexities of her emotions that would lead her to be that confused.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay, well, I guess I can see that.
Okay, yeah. But anyway. Okay, so I guess, overall, we've talked about what we would like and didn't like. Would you recommend the movie?
Oh, yeah.
And to whom?
To anybody, especially if they like Spider-Man. It's a good movie. You know, you can tell it was made with passion, and I wholeheartedly accept it as the last movie in the original series.
I think I would also recommend it to almost everybody, simply due to the fact that it is accessible. You don't need to see. You don't even really need to see the first one to understand it, and you don't need to like have read the comic books to understand the characters. Like it is accessible. It's light entertainment, but it also is willing to go into some darker territory.
Yeah.
So I think that I would recommend it.
Bechdel test?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
If my count is correct, it fails.
It fails. Okay.
Very, very much, because even like in the one scene where women can talk to each other, they aren't. They're just talking directly to Peter.
There's one scene I can think of, but it's of so little consequence. Where basically,
The birthday party?
well, no, it's where Mary Jane just got out of her play, and her friend's like, "Hey, you're gonna come out with us?" And Mary Jane's like, "No," and she's like, "Okay." And they weren't talking about men,
Right.
but it was the scene is of so little consequence. I don't think it matters. But yeah, I don't remember in the 11.
Wait, yeah, that didn't happen. Okay, so it still feels like a fail.
Yeah. I do think that there is some strength in the way they developed the female character, particularly Aunt May, like I said before. But it is still primarily male-driven movie.
Yeah, it is.
Nah, I don't feel like it's sexist, but I do still feel like it is a male-driven movie.
Yeah.
What would you rate it out of 5?
Oh, 3.
3. I think that was lower than you gave the first one.
Oh, then let's say 4.
4?
4.
We can do a 0.5 system as well. Like you can't say you're allowed to.
I'm going to say 4.
You're going to say 4.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd say that so far this is the best Spider-Man movie made. I think that at this point in time we have the 3 first Spider-Man movies and the first 2 of the Amazing Spider-Man. I think this one's my favorite of the bunch so far.
Oh, I completely disagree. Okay. Andrew Garfield is Spider-Man.
Well, okay, I know. Look, I got you, but I don't hate the new series. I'm just waiting to see how it pans out. So,
well, how they're going to pan out is the Sinister Six.
Yes, but how is that going to pan out?
It's going to be amazing, because it's going to be like 6 movies.
Trust me, more isn't always better, but we'll see. I actually really like Spider-Man 2. I connect with it quite a bit, and I've voiced my complaints, but I feel like overall it doesn't detract too much from the whole film. So I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm feeling good about that. Well, thanks for recording with me. Yeah, we hit about an hour, so I think we're right on the button.
Booyah.
So my friend Paul and I figured out how to sign out of here because so when you're making movies and they say check the gate, and they're checking the gate of to make sure there's no hairs in the gate, so that the picture is good. They say they check the gate, and they go, and everyone goes moving on to because that means they're moving on from that scene to the next scene.
Oh, okay.
So thank you for listening to the Check the Gate podcast. We're moving on.